studying this module, you shall be able to know and understand the concept of emotional intelligence, identify the various models and correlates of emotional intelligence, and learn about the importance of emotional intelligence in various areas of life. Prior to the coming of the positive psychology movement, emotions were viewed as toxic, better treated as slaves to be controlled. In contrast to this, positive psychology focuses on how people process emotion related information, how they benefit from engaging their emotions, as well as how they can make the most of their emotional experiences. One of the most important concepts which has developed as a result of this renewed understanding of emotions is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the newest area of interest in psychology. It has become the research focus of many leading psychologists. It is also growing into a multi-million-dollar organizational development industry. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand and manage the emotions of oneself and others. Many intrapersonal and interpersonal competencies make up emotional intelligence, whereas intrapersonal competencies include self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, resilience and management of stress. Interpersonal competencies include showing empathy, social skills and showing tolerance towards the beliefs of other people. The term emotional intelligence was popularized by psychologist and journalist Daniel Goleman in his book Emotional Intelligence: Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. Now, it is usually recognized as a good or even better predictor of managerial success than IQ. As Goleman puts, it is not that IQ and technical skills are irrelevant. They do matter, but mainly as threshold capabilities. That is, they are the entry-level requirements for executive positions. But rather, it is emotional intelligence that differentiates between those who perform at an outstanding level and those who work at a basic level of competence. According to Goleman, the contribution of emotional intelligence to effective performance at work is as much as 66% for all jobs and 85% for leadership jobs. Let us now look at the different models of emotional intelligence. Mainly, there are three models of emotional intelligence. First is the ability model. Salovey and Mayer's original model described emotional intelligence as a form of social intelligence that involves the ability to monitor one's own and others' feelings and emotions, to discriminate among them, and to use this information to guide one's thinking and actions. According to Mayer, Caruso and Salovey's 2000 definition, emotional intelligence refers to the abilities used to process information about one's own emotions and the emotions of other people. In this model, there are four branches of emotional intelligence. Emotional perception is the ability to register, attend to emotional messages in facial expressions, tone of voice, and also in other stimuli like artwork. Second, emotional integration, which is the ability to access and generate feelings which help in the facilitation of thought. Third, emotional understanding, the ability to understand the implications of emotions, that is, how emotions change and how they can affect relationships. The fourth is emotional management, that is, the ability to regulate emotions and exercise control on the expression of emotions. Some of the most prominent ability-based measures of emotional intelligence are multi-factor emotional intelligence scale and Mayer-Salovey-Caruso emotional intelligence test. Next is the model of emotional social intelligence. According to Barron, emotional intelligence is an array of non-cognitive capabilities, competencies and skills that influence one's ability to succeed in coping with environmental demands and pressures. Emotional intelligence, according to this model, is defined in terms of an array of emotional and social knowledge and abilities that influence the overall ability to effectively relate with environmental demands. It includes the ability to be aware of, to understand and to express oneself, the ability to be aware of, to understand and relate to others, the ability to deal with strong emotions and control one's impulses, and the ability to adapt to change and to solve problems of a personal or social nature. Barron developed one of the first measures of emotional intelligence that used the term emotional quotient. The Barron EQI was developed by Barron and it measures emotional intelligence in 5 main domains, that is, intrapersonal skills, interpersonal skills, adaptability, stress management and general mood. Competency model. According to Goleman, emotional intelligence consists of abilities such as being able to motivate oneself and persist in the face of frustrations, to control impulse and delay gratification, to regulate one's moods and keep distress from swamping the ability to think, to empathize and to hope. In 1998, Goleman defined emotional intelligence in terms of self-awareness, self-confidence, self-control, commitment and integrity, and a person's ability to communicate, influence, initiate change and accept change. Goleman proposed 5 dimensions of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-regulation, self-motivation, empathy and social skills. Based on the work of Boyatzis and Goleman, the emotional competence inventory is a multi-rater instrument for measuring emotional intelligence. The ECI incorporates 20 competencies organized into 4 domains: self-awareness, social awareness, self-management and social skills. Let us now understand the correlates of emotional intelligence. Since the time of its introduction, many researches have been done on emotional intelligence and it has been studied in relation to many variables. Some of them are academic performance. Many studies have been carried out on the prediction from emotional intelligence of school grades, and academically gifted students have been found to be higher on emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is also related to successful transition from high school to university. Next is deviant behavior. A consistent and unique pattern of prediction emerges when one examines the link between emotional intelligence and problematic or antisocial behavior. Emotional intelligence varies inversely with bullying, violence, tobacco use and drug problems. Relationships. Emotional intelligence correlates positively with the quality of interaction with friends. People high on emotional intelligence are also found to be higher on pro-social behavior and lower on antisocial behavior. Stress management. Emotional intelligence is positively related to stress management. Emotional intelligence has been found to be related to lower levels of stress. Work-related performance. Competency research in over 200 companies and organizations worldwide has suggested that about 1/3 of the difference in efficiency is due to technical skill and cognitive ability, while 2/3 is due to emotional competence. Emotional intelligence has been studied in relation to work performance, interpersonal exchange and managing change. Emotional intelligence is also related to more profits in business. It distinguishes between star performers and average performers. Emotional intelligence also leads to reduction in formal grievances and increase in productivity. Leadership. Emotional intelligence significantly correlates with transformational leadership and success. Emotional intelligence is related to effective managerial skills and leadership excellence. A large percentage of success of a leader and exceptional performance is determined by emotional social intelligence. Chadha in 1998 evaluated the Prime Ministers of India on the basis of emotional intelligence attributes and cognitive, behavioral, social and psychological attributes. He reported that those Prime Ministers who had high emotional intelligence were more successful and popular among the people in comparison to those Prime Ministers who did not have high emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is positively correlated with organizational commitment, emotional expression and quality of life. However, some studies have shown that even in the absence of emotional intelligence, managers are able to achieve success in organizations. Recruitment and selection. Today, the workplace is rapidly changing and becoming more stressful and demanding. Therefore, recruitment and selection are not made merely in terms of academic performance or expertise, but also how well an individual is able to handle himself and others. Most successful candidates are found to be significantly higher in emotional intelligence. Gender. There are contradictory findings with respect to gender differences in emotional intelligence. While many studies show males to be higher in emotional intelligence, others show females to be significantly higher. The emotionally intelligent person perceives, uses, understands and manages emotions better than others. He or she tends to be more open and agreeable than others. The emotionally intelligent person is more interested in occupations involving social interactions. He or she is more likely to show pro-social and altruistic behaviors. As compared to others, the emotionally intelligent person is less likely to engage in problematic and self-destructive behaviors like smoking, excessive drinking or drug abuse. He or she also has more positive social interactions. Emotional intelligence as a learnable skill. Are people born with certain levels of emotional intelligence, or do they learn and develop emotional intelligence as a result of life's experiences? The answer is both. Scientific research strongly suggests that there is a genetic component to emotional intelligence. Psychological and developmental research indicates that nurture plays a very important role as well. There is strong research evidence that emotional intelligence can be learned. Emotional intelligence is born mostly in the neurotransmitters of the brain's limbic system, which governs feelings, impulses and drives. The limbic system learns through practice, motivation and feedback. In contrast to this, the neocortex learns technical skills and cognitive abilities and gains knowledge very quickly as compared to the emotional brain. Evidence has emerged from many sources, but three in particular. First, the research of McClelland, Winter and their colleagues from the 1960s and 1970s on developing achievement and power motivation. Second, the work of Kolb and his colleagues from the 1960s and early 1970s on self-directed behavioral change. And third, the work of various researchers at the Weatherhead School of Management at Case Western Reserve University in the late 1980s and during the 1990s in competency development. The skills of emotional intelligence can be learned at any age. However, it is not an easy task. Enhancing one's emotional intelligence takes practice and commitment. Findings suggest that emotional intelligence increases with age and that older people display higher levels of emotional intelligence than younger people. Strategies for enhancing emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence can be enhanced by self-regulation, self-monitoring, developing communication skills, using appropriate skills for problem solving, developing empathy, etc. The best way to develop emotional intelligence is to start early. Children should be taught emotional intelligence skills right from the start. Emotional intelligence and Indian view. The models of emotional intelligence discussed before were all developed in Western countries. It is important to understand emotional intelligence with respect to the Indian culture. Let us look at a brief view of the researches done on the understanding and measurement of emotional intelligence in India. As discussed before, Chadha evaluated the Prime Ministers of India on the basis of emotional intelligence attributes and cognitive, behavioral, social and psychological attributes. And he reported that those Prime Ministers who had high emotional intelligence were more successful and popular among people in comparison to those Prime Ministers who did not have high emotional intelligence. Singh found that emotional intelligence was positively correlated with organizational commitment, emotional expression and quality of life. However, Manasi, on the basis of her studies, concluded that even in the absence of emotional intelligence, managers were able to take the required decision if the work profile was of a more technical nature. In India, the assessment of emotional intelligence has emerged rather slowly. While some researchers have developed psychometric assessment tools, others have tried to undertake qualitative methods for understanding emotional intelligence. Some of the psychometric tools available in India are as follows. Chadha and Singh developed the EQ test for the Indian population. This test was designed to measure emotional sensitivity, emotional maturity and emotional competency. The test contains 15 situations measuring different emotional responses and their blends. Chadha developed the EQ test for adolescents too. The test consists of 73 situations to measure 4 dimensions of emotional intelligence, that is, sensitivity, conscientiousness, empathy and adaptability. Thinkucham and Ram made an attempt at Indian adaptation of emotional intelligence scale of Shute. They also reported that emotional intelligence had a strong and positive correlation with coping with stress, while a moderate and negative correlation with trait anxiety and slightly and positively with belief in social relation. Women significantly scored higher than men on emotional intelligence. Shanbal adapted the emotional intelligence test by modifying the items to suit the Indian context. Singh initiated a study for developing and standardizing a measure of emotional intelligence following the Goleman model. The 5 dimensions of emotional intelligence were positively correlated with organizational commitment, emotional expression and quality of life. Pant and Prakash evaluated the construct of emotional intelligence as assessed by the multi-factor emotional intelligence scale. Performance on the MEIS was correlated with theoretically relevant criterion measures. Results revealed low reliabilities with mixed relationship with various subtests of MEIS and no substantial gender difference among various emotional intelligence dimensions. The results suggest that emotional intelligence construct is not a unique ability in the Indian sample as measured by MEIS. Bhattacharya, Datta and Mandal in 2004 conducted a study to examine the factor structure of emotional intelligence in India. Their analysis yielded 5 factors: appraisal of negative emotions, appraisal of positive emotions, interpersonal conflicts and flexibility, emotional facilitation and goal orientation. Another set of work has employed qualitative methodology for understanding emotional intelligence. An interview schedule was developed by Sibia, Mishra and Srivastav in 2005 to examine the perceptions of parents, teachers and children regarding emotional intelligence characteristics. A measure of emotional intelligence was developed by Pandey and Tripathi. It consisted of photographs and verbal descriptions involving different emotional situations following the work of Ekman et al. Let us now look at the criticisms of emotional intelligence. Despite the overwhelming interest in the concept of emotional intelligence, it is not without its critics. Davis, Stankov and Roberts have raised two important questions regarding emotional intelligence. First, are the methods used to measure emotional intelligence reliable and valid? And whether emotional intelligence really differs from other related concepts of personality. Some critics prefer a different term instead of emotional intelligence so as to distinguish it from other concepts related to personality and intelligence. The importance of emotional intelligence. The emotional intelligence model is emerging as an important framework in psychology. The range of fields in psychology influenced by the emotional intelligence model is very large. The areas with the strongest connections to emotional intelligence are developmental, educational, clinical, counseling, social, industrial and organizational psychology. Emotional intelligence offers a strong positive model for psychology. It has implications for physical and mental health care and for effective interventions in education, business and organizations. The rise in competition and a rapid pace of change have resulted in stress and depression. The World Health Organization has predicted that depression will be the second highest cause of death in the next 10 years. The Harvard School of Public Health has predicted that by 2020, depression will be responsible for more lost work days in the developed world than heart disease. Also, it has been found that 2/3 of stress-related problems result from abusive, unsatisfying, limiting or ill-defined relationships. Emotional intelligence has emerged as an important construct in today's world. It not only leads to positive outcomes like academic achievement and organizational productivity, it is also related to lower levels of stress and depression. Needless to say, the concept of emotional intelligence has come as a breath of fresh air in the area of psychology. Not only does it challenge the earlier biased notions about emotions, but by demonstrating the importance of emotions in human life, it has given emotions their due. The modern day world is beset with rapid social, cultural and emotional upheavals, cutthroat competition, stress and insecurities. In such a challenging emotional climate, emotional intelligence is a psychological strength which can guide and motivate individuals to deal with as well as benefit from their emotions. Increased understanding of emotional intelligence will provide a broader range of psychological mechanisms that will enable individuals to flourish in their lives. Therefore, emotional intelligence should not just be treated as a mere concept in the matter of academic pursuit, but be engaged as a powerful strength in the attainment of social and psychological well-being. Let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. The concept of emotional intelligence developed as a result of a surging interest in the importance of emotions in human life. Emotional intelligence was conceptualized as a set of abilities for processing emotional information by Meyer, Salovey and Caruso, and as a set of personality traits by Barron, Goleman and Cooper. Emotional intelligence plays a key role in academic performance, relationships, work-related performance, leadership performance, and recruitment and selection. Individuals higher in emotional intelligence are found to be low on deviant and antisocial behaviors. Contradictory results are found with respect to gender differences in emotional intelligence. In today's world full of challenges and stresses, emotional intelligence emerges as a powerful psychological strength which promotes happiness and well-being.